You're listening to Viking Radio, coming to you from Dream Street Studios at Del Mar College.
Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Natalie Chapa. Joining me today, we have Del Mar College Board of Regent, Mr. David Loeb, and our Del Mar College President, Dr. Mark Escamilla. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. You kind of have to be here, Dr. E. This is your building. This is where you're housed. But Regent Loeb, thanks for joining us.
It's wonderful to be here.
So I know we wanted to kick off today talking about some really great initiatives here happening at the college, and the board has been really excited about that. You want to talk about that first?
Well, I'd say the big thing that we're excited about is the second year of Freedom to Dream, which we still have open enrollment for, and that's our system of waiving tuition and fees for in-district students who can come full-time for either a credit or a non-credit degree program. There's a couple things that we haven't been able to extend it yet, but most of our programs they can do, and it's open for just graduating high school students or adults who have not taken more than a semester of college. So it's our way of trying to get everybody in our community educated so they can have a better life and better employment.
And this is such an innovative idea. Now, there are a lot of promise programs out there, Dr. Escamilla, and so that's not necessarily new. But this program really is unique.
Yeah, and in fact, Del Mar College had its own promise program going back to 2018 or so, maybe 20, somewhere in there. And those last dollar in promise programs exist all over the place, colleges, universities, all throughout the country. Are they effective? Modestly effective, some better than others and the like. But anytime, the students weed through that, they sort through all that, and they find out, well, it's just really applying for financial aid, leveraging Pell, and then whatever scant few dollars are left over, and that's wonderful for those who can figure all that out, because
but
it
ours
does
is
work.
Different.
Yes, ours is a first dollar in scenario, and like I like to share with everybody, and unfortunately, it wasn't a novel idea. It was an idea that was really set forth and taken. The leap of faith was taken by Austin Community College here in the state. I was trying to keep up with them, but I was a year behind with them. So that being said, this first dollar in scenario really just changes the landscape for our students and their families. It becomes a really, really big family decision to jump in, commit to a full-time schedule, which is very unusual for our students, and finish as quickly as possible.
So you're talking about our numbers. Traditionally, we have a lot of students who, again, have a lot of other responsibilities in life. Family, work, and so a lot of our students go part-time.
Yes.
This is an opportunity for a student to start full-time.
Yes.
Have to keep a 2.0. Talk a little bit why that, again, why is that innovative in terms, like you said, this is first dollar in. What does that mean to our parents and grandparents and neighbors listening out there?
So first dollar in means that if they receive scholarships or Pell financial aid, that we are not taking that money. What the promise programs typically do is they say, after you've used all of your financial aid and your Pell, then we waive tuition.
Right.
What our program, what Freedom to Dream says is you get tuition and fees waived, and then that money you can use to pay living expenses and your books. And for a huge number of our students, the reason they cannot come full time is because they have to work to support themselves and their family.
Sure.
And so the idea is to really expand access to those in our community that need it most, who would otherwise not be able to finish quickly because they have to pay their living expenses. And so by not touching their Pell grants and not touching any scholarship money, they're able to not work and come to school
and really just
finish
focus
quicker
and finish faster, right? Which is so important. And I also appreciate that we kickstarted this program, and financially, right? It's so helpful for our students. Like you said, all of that money that you get, the Pell Grant, scholarships that you don't have to pay back, goes straight into your pocket. But we also have other programs here already at the college through student services. So you not only get that tuition waiver, there's an opportunity. We've got a food pantry here, right? We've got mental health counseling here. So there's other resources. Again, this just adds, I think, right, to treating the whole student and supporting the whole student as much as we can.
Cost of living is something that is learned over time. Unfortunately, stretching out your years in the classroom and taking a part-time experience is very useful to those who have a lifestyle whereby they have steady employment, they're building a career, they're moving up and starting to move up in management and those kinds of things, working for HEB and or the big companies out there, or any company out there, and working in small companies or large. That lifestyle is good if you have that stability. But if you're just going year to year, like Mark Escamilla back in the 80s, early 90s, you need a compression of that so that you can hurry up and get through.
The faster you're
out.
here, the
sooner
faster you can complete.
Put it all behind you and get that good career trajectory and if you're an entrepreneur or whatever, you can get these things out of your way. But stretching it out really statistically diminishes your chances of actually completing, because you're putting too much life between you and that degree, and things happen.
And when you're out in the community, the first question that people ask is, how's your enrollment?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how's enrollment look this year? You have more students, you have less students. And so while we've kind of traditionally in higher ed focused on that enrollment numbers, getting the student here, now there's also that paradigm shift is we're focusing on enrollment, but we're focusing on retention, which means keeping you here.
Well, and I like to think that we're really focused on completion.
Yes, completion.
And some would say graduation in a traditional model, but a huge number of our students come here to get a low-cost early education and then transfer to a university to finish their degree, which is great. And so we want to speed the process of students being able to achieve their goal. And I think that's something that's a little bit different about ours than maybe some of the other programs is we've gone far broader. As far as I know, we're the only ones that do a program like this that touches on adult students,
right?
People who are coming back or who never went to college in the first place. And so that's really important. And I think our data this year, we kind of saw the first tranche of Freedom to Dream students, and our completions went way up this spring. We had a very large graduation just last week. So
record-breaking graduation.
Those adults, Regent Loeb is not saying this, but I think out of modesty too, but this is a move by our Board of Regents that I think is evidence of the heart, the collective heart of the college, and that is that they brought in the adults to this program. That was outside the scope of anything I proposed, not because I'm against adult learners. I've been spending my whole career on it. I thought we would go at it a different way, but including those adult learners with less than a semester's worth of college credits was a big step. Frankly, we had no idea, and we hadn't done the analysis. We could guess and so forth, but it was a serious number, a significant, considerable number of adults that jumped into this program. And hats off to the Regents for pushing the envelope on that for a policy.
And I do want to transition about that because Del Mar College Board of Regents, it's 9 elected individuals. So it is an elected position. And the Board of Regents was behind this from the get-go, begin with some tweaks. Talk a little bit why this was so important. I mean, again, you're very diverse as a board, which is great. That's one of the great things about the board.
That's the structure of the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about it is that when we're saying yes for a variety of different reasons and coming from different places and doing that. We have educators, we have business people, we have people who have served in other governments, we have people who have not, left, right, and center in terms of ideological politics. But I think that's what makes us a strong board is that we can have discussions, and we have an incredible staff that gets our questions answered and helps us through policy decisions. But I think I was one of the main pushers on the adult issue, and it was we're a property tax funded institution,
Mm-hmm.
and so my feeling was that anybody who's writing us a property tax check at the end of the year deserves to be able to use the fruits of what they're paying for. And so there are a huge number of people who weren't able to go to college at the traditional time. You know, life intervenes. They had other priorities. And if they're writing a property tax check at the end of the year, I think we should have the benefits of that available to them. And I don't think that it's really appropriate that they pay a tax and then we ask them to pay a fee to use the thing that they're actually paying for.
They're already paying for, sure.
And, there was across the board agreement with that idea. And I don't know that anybody had ever really had that discussion at any of the other colleges, because there are other colleges that do these sorts of things where it's, if you are a graduating senior at a high school, then you qualify for this. And it's like, well, I remember when I was young, dual credit was finally rolling out, and I remember they'd announced it, I think my senior year of high school.
And it was with Del Mar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was so mad that that didn't exist.
It didn't exist.
You know, I'm like, well, they get the benefit of that and I don't. And so maybe I was channeling that in that thinking. It's
What year was that?
I graduated high school in 1999.
All right, 99. You're younger than me.
Well,
Okay.
and my joke that the other regents love is I'm the first Del Mar regent that graduated college in this millennium. They really love it when I say that.
Yeah, love
He's
it.
the baby of the
I'm the
Regents.
baby at 45. And so it might have been that, but I mean, I think that one of the great things about this college as an institution is how focused we are on the people who would not otherwise be able to access higher education.
Yes.
And so to me, that is our mission.
So important.
And it's great to see, we have that vision on the board level, but it's what everybody who works here, that's why they work here.
Mm-hmm.
They are smart people. They have master's degrees. They have doctorates. They could teach at more prestigious universities. They could go do research. But what they want to do is teach regular people.
And that is, right, the prestige of universities is the research component.
Right.
Whereas our faculty here are focused on teaching.
Right.
The very mission of the community college is
The mission
is a teaching college. We are here to put research aside for the greater extent, and teach those who come our way, and we get to accept 100% of every class.
Mm-hmm. A lot of opportunity there, definitely. So when we talk about Freedom to Dream, and we're talking about the students for our listeners, we're talking about adults. So, right, we've got that group of students who are graduating from high school, coming straight from high school, coming into Freedom to Dream. When we talk about the adults, we're really talking about that group that has kind of spent a few years outside of school. So whether in the workforce or taking care of family or doing other things, but they've completed less than 12 semester credit hours. So let's say 4 classes, right, in the community college or in anywhere else as well, correct?
Sure.
And so if you are an adult out there, you still qualify for this, depending on how many courses you've attempted and passed in college before.
And if you don't know on that, go ahead and apply. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about on the board, we had that cap because honestly, we were worried the first year that if everybody who was a current student full-time switched to Freedom to Dream, that our tuition revenue would go down so much that it wouldn't be financially viable. So I think one of our ongoing discussions is raising that cap or eliminating it. And so if you've applied, it's a one-page form. When we do those sorts of things, the first thing we're going to go back and look at is who did we have to tell no to in the past.
That's right. But we're also capturing those students
Right.
and saying, hold on,
And
there's
that-
some other options here at Del Mar College for you.
Right.
And so we're not just gonna say, sorry, that doesn't work out for us. We want to get you here and be as supportive as we can. We'll be right back.
This is where you want to be, to dream, to grow, to graduate and succeed. This is Oso Creek campus at Del Mar College, home to core classes and signature programs with cutting-edge labs and state-of-the-art facilities. This is a place of innovation, transformation, and support. This is your time, your future. This is where you belong. Learn more at dmcdreams.com.
So again, for our listeners, we're here with Dr. Mark Escamilla at Del Mar College and our Del Mar College Board of Regent, Mr. David Loeb. So Regent Loeb, this is your, third year?
Third year.
Third year on the board. So you have served the community in other capacities, city council, several city committees, different leadership roles. Tell me what it was about the Del Mar College Board that interested you.
So I was on the city council when Lenora Keys and Mark approached the city for funding for the Process Tech program to get started. And I remember at the same time, the Craft Training Center approached the city for financial help for building out their current campus and welding bays. And I asked a question. I said, well, when somebody takes something at Craft, do they get credit at Del Mar for it? And vice versa.
Yes.
And the answer was no. And I said, well, I want everybody to work together. So my thing on me voting yes is if that exists now, if you can make that happen where people can transfer back and forth and get full credit for whatever education they're going for, then I'm a yes to both of these. And I remembered, industry was very involved and was writing checks. I had the first thing out of my mouth to Lenora was, I was like, well, what are your industry partners doing? Is this, they're just expecting government to pay the full cost? And she said, no, they're paying half of it. And, there was a partnership there. And I remember going through that. And as a council member, what I would hear from business owners that they could not find qualified people to work for them. And at the same time, I would hear from parents and young people that they didn't feel that there was opportunity here, and they felt like the younger people were having to move away to find an opportunity.
From both sides
and
in the
so,
community. Yeah.
And I saw Del Mar actively working to solve that problem. And it was done in a way, it was done in partnership, and everybody was happy. It was like a 90-10 issue, and a lot of
Which
stuff,
is so rare.
You're right. A lot of stuff in politics is
Yeah.
there's one side and then there's the other, and they beat the hell out of each other. But, I think everybody kind of can get behind the idea of it's good that we can take somebody who didn't grow up in the best circumstances, get them an education, and then they can go make more money than anybody else in their family ever has, and they can stay here and do that. And, that helps a business grow here. That helps a family prosper here. That's a good thing.
It's a good thing for our community.
And so I had kids, and so I went off the city council for a while, and then I kept seeing Del Mar doing this stuff, and I had heard that my regent where I lived was going to retire. And I went and talked to my wife, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about, the kids are in elementary school now. Can I go start doing elective politics again?
Can I get back in the game,
Can I get
honey?
back in the game? And I'd done some nonprofit work. And so she was like, well, tell me about this. And I said, well, it's a 6-year term. And she said, it's not 2 years terms like city council? And I was like, yeah, it's 6-year terms. So I only have to, widow you for 3 months every 6 years rather than every 2 years. And she said, okay, that's great. And so I talked to Susan. I talked to some of the other board members. and Susan announced that she was not going to run again.
Right.
I announced the next day that I was going to run for the seat. I went and had a fundraiser, bought all my yard signs, and then nobody filed against me, so I didn't even have that election. So my wife was really happy.
Very happy.
So no, it's just it's a wonderful honor to do this, and that's the wonderful thing is let's get people an education where they can take care of themselves and their family is a universal thing. There's a huge number of things that people do not agree on. That is something that virtually everyone agrees on. It is not a hard job from a politics standpoint of talking to your constituents and saying, this is what we're doing and here's the examples of us doing that. And that's a wonderful thing to see in our community because there are communities that don't value it. And that's something that I think I've seen in our community over, my family's been here almost since the beginning. And when our community focuses on making each other and everybody better, we grow and we prosper. And when we shrink back to only caring about ourselves, it shrinks. And so it's wonderful to be part of the organization that I think is kind of the tip of the spear in terms of making sure that there's opportunity for everybody here.
I think that's an important point there for people to understand. The structure of the college really quickly, I am the only employee of the entire college that reports to the Board of Regents. Well, that's not unique to Del Mar College. Right. That is the structure as per statute.
At the state level,
At the
right?
state
Because the
level.
other states have different ways to elect their
Texas
regent.
Education Code 130 says that. And it's important for people to know that. And that the Board of Regents makes no salary, no returns.
Right.
We get lunch together and some good quality time from time to time along the way.
My joke is we get lunch to make sure that we don't outsource to Aramark.
That's so. Moving on. The other part of that is really
I'm surprised I wasn't sooner. By the way,
is that then the college the Board of Regents' purpose is to then bring their roles as publicly elected officials in from 5 districts and 4 at-large positions, which is a beautiful mechanism that brings representation and so forth. To bring in the community's expectation of the college. Then it is my job to work with the college to articulate that overall vision. Yes, underneath all that is statute. I mean, we have our missions that are very explicit in the education code, and so forth. But that's really it. They bring the vision. We articulate the vision and execute it. It's a beautiful model. It's an American invention. Started
the community college.
The community
St.
college.
Joliet.
Joliet Junior College in Illinois, back in 1901.
I'm glad you bring that up because I don't think people realize the actual structure of the community college and how it really was part of higher education very early on. It's not a subset. It wasn't. And it's a blessing and a curse in that the way that we are structured financially, right, is that we are able, because of the way that we're structured, we are able to afford the community excellent education.
And yet we're not a state
cost-effective.
entity per se.
We're not a state entity.
We are tied to the state inextricably through our budgets, through the state appropriations mechanisms of the
So
LBV.
I think right now we're 18%?
A little bit.
18 to 20 that we receive from state appropriations?
Yeah, somewhere it's dwindling. It continues to go down percentage-wise and so forth. They're very purposeful. But again, the mechanism of having people such as Regent Loeb and obviously the 8 others of the board really brings in a representative group of individuals with very different backgrounds, and it's an awesome thing.
Who are advocating on behalf of the community. You're the community's voice.
We are.
At Del Mar College. And so I know we've got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything else that you want to end with or leave us with?
I would say it's a really great job. I think last week I had one I sent Mark where one of the high school principals in my district, they had a student who'd been doing dual credit and they've been accepted for Freedom to Dream and wanted to take classes over the summer, and for some reason they were getting a bill, and and it's one of those kind of policy issues that we want to onboard people for Freedom to Dream. So we've kind of assumed people would start in the fall. But what do we do with somebody who's raring to go and wants to start in summer and wants to get a prereq done in the summer because the classes they want to take in the fall? And so getting to work through those issues, identify them, because that's not something that other schools and universities have. Most of the universities or private colleges, they've got a board that's focused around raising money. And being able to be in the community and hear needs and let staff know, hey, this is what's going on. And one of the things that I'm really impressed with actually is how connected to the community the staff is. And I didn't really know that until I was elected, and I got to know people at the college, but then I started noticing every time I walk into a community meeting room, it's like, oh, there's Natalie. There's somebody, there's one of the deans.
Yes.
And I'm like,
we're everywhere.
Wow, we're everywhere.
Because this is our community.
Right.
Yes.
And so that is the wonderful thing about the college. I was in an economic development meeting last week, and the feedback was, there are these investments in the community that we are getting because of Del Mar's capability of going to a new company coming to town and saying, what is it that you need? Okay, here's an internship program. Here's a training pipeline that we are setting up for you. Here, come to these recruiting events, and that the feedback is, we decided to make our $1 billion investment in this community based on the fact that this existed and other places did not have it. And so that is, it's a treasure, because that is, we're getting investment on the basis of our ability to take students who did not grow up in the best of circumstances and get them an education and get them a good job that changes the trajectory of their family.
In whatever direction you want to go.
In whatever direction they want to go. We've got something for everybody.
Right? You want to be an MD, you want to be a welder, you want to be a teacher. I mean, again, a culinary, you want to be a chef.
Right.
And so I hope that people out there understand that it really is whoever and whatever. If you have the ability, we're here. We're here. And I know we are continuing to work with that. Freedom to Dream, this is our second year. We're going to keep moving on with it. And we're going to keep getting better and better. I think that's always part of our mission and vision here at the college is we want to create dreams for people, but we're always trying to work to make those processes better, our culture of care better. So if you come on campus, we're here to serve you. We're ready to go. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure sitting and talking to you about Freedom to Dream and Del Mar College. And Regent Loeb, we'd love to have you back again.
Anytime.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Dr. Natalie.
This is Viking Radio. This show is a production of Del Mar College.